Welcome to the bold analysis. From 13th to 15th December, US Africa Leaders Summit is supposed to be held, and Africa is heading overseas to the US. Kenya is not left behind, and I have seen behind the scene mobilization by the diaspora team in the US to meet the president in the sidelines of that conference. However, two top US officials are confirming that Joe Biden, which is a departure from previous plan, has not planned or has blocked one-on-one bilaterals with any single African leader in the upcoming US Leaders Summit. And that summit is being hosted by the White House. So what is happening here is this Africa Leaders Summit was held last time in 2014 when Barack Obama was the president. But when Donald Trump took the reins of power, he showed Africa his back, and focused mostly on the Southern Asia and the South American side. But he was not, remember, even by that time, there was a problem of making sure, of even traveling to the US. There was bit of that problem. So the US policy makers, or rather foreign policy experts, are looking at it at a different angle, because this conference was giving Biden an opportunity to have one-on-one with the African presidents. And I saw a report by Peter Pham, who was a top State Department official focused on Africa during Donald Trump administration. He is saying that it is in the past, the US has organized such summits, and they successfully organized ones for the South, for the Latin American and the Asian leaders. But you could not organize those summits without prior arrangement for one-on-one with the President of the United States of America, POTUS. So this debate is now taking center stage in the US, and it is believed that African leaders, those who are going there, are also putting a lot of focus on having one-on-one with the president, because that is the media bonus. That is the publicity bonus that they want the people back home to see that they are close to the reins of power in the US. President Obama faced the same challenge in 2014 to hold bilaterals, and according to sources, he could not even plan the pool sides. He only planned for some two countries. I think it was Ghana and probably another country, because of the same challenge, because it would be illogical, or rather difficult, for Biden to meet all the over 50 presidents that are expected to converge in the US. This is a big thing, and I have seen that story was covered well, asking the question whether we really, African countries, are getting quality for the foreign trips to Europe. What is at the center of this is very critical, and that is why the fact that Biden is not going to meet with a single African president, including yours truly, President William Samoei Ruto, the conference will feature think tank events, panel and plenary sessions on climate change, technology, and trade at the Washington, D.C. convention. But not every leader will have an opportunity to speak. I analyzed in this channel some time back that I think it was US-China Economic Commission had released a report saying that China had established, or masquerading as investment partner to Africa, but had established military bases. They were actually talking about the one in Kenya, and they're masquerading as the good helping brother, but they're just establishing their military bases in Africa. So that report, and my good friend Thomas called me telling me that he was actually siding with China. That is just the old books of the Cold War to make sure that they can dethrone China. So China is becoming the threat to US in terms of now taking over Africa. And this high level engagement with African leaders was actually a platform for the United States of America to stamp their authority, or rather to engage with the people, or rather with the leaders of different countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to customize that to our whole space, our space here in Kenya. President Ruto is heading to the New York. Apart from the group session, he's unlikely to have one-on-one with Joe Biden, who is the POTUS. And so, do you think it's a must? What will be the sign? The last time in this year, if he goes to US, that will be the third time. He was in US in February. And of course, he did not meet US. Of course, by then he was the deputy president and was on a political mission. Then he also attended United Nations General Assembly. Few days after being sworn in, and he had one-on-one with Joe Biden. The photos were shared all over by the State House team. And so this one here, it may be unlikely. I have always maintained that our administration has already showed their bias in terms of either going west or going east. And it is not something that the inconsistency in our foreign policy has been playing out in the way we are engaging with these other development partners. We've seen having covered more delegations from the West meeting with the administration compared to the East, even though the debate has been different because during President Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure, we were so far into the East because Uhuru is on record saying that China was offering solutions, first-hand solutions that are actually meeting the demand of the African nations. So on this one, I am saying that because of this, we needed to tread careful because US we appears to be having a soft spot for the West. Remember, during Donald Trump power, Africans were never given the priority. It was never on the table. It was never his priority. Even though we cannot say that Donald Trump is way different, because I was reading that article and it's saying that he spent more time making calls to the European leaders, and Africa has become at the bottom of, I don't want to say bottom of the pyramid, but have come at the bottom of his diary. So, as much as we engage well in good note with the development partners, but we should be very keen to know that our friendship is not permanent. US is expecting a transition, whether it will be from Biden to Trump or Biden to another Biden, you're yet to see, but Trump has thrown his weight in the fold and is planning to seize power again from Biden. So, and when he takes it, it's a totally different story. I know the Kenyans in the diaspora can help us divulge more on that. The strategists, or rather experts, are seeing that US appears to treat Africa as a bloc rather than individual governments. So the challenge here is individual governments have different interests, different priorities. But to that summit, we can be handled as individual, as a bloc. So if it is so, then we need to question on the value of the $1 billion foreign trips that is siphoning the public funds. So are we getting them? I have seen in the past government pro-government propagandists. I think let's also call them propagandists, because sometimes when we criticize, we also call it propagandists. So pro-government propagandists running with a very successful narrative that when administration is out, the billions have brought back. I remember this was successfully used during the South Korean tour. And so it has been there. We want to, it is high time also to question on the value that the foreign trade, if it is about going to speak the big English and coming back, then let's just send the linguistics guys. We also have very competent people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that can represent us, and their per diems will be lesser than someone from the executive. US doesn't care, seems to care much about the China, and the trick, or rather the challenge here is when you show bias towards the West and you already have your loans in the East, then your foreign policy becomes inconsistent. It's at the mercies of who is supporting you. But remember, we need to beg for a structure of our debts, because if you don't restructure our debts, we may really reach the equilibrium and we will get to a boiling point. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Is it a good thing? Would you want your president to meet Biden? I need to finish this analysis by making this clarification. From today, I need to make that clarification. I want to tell you this. Raila Odinga has not called a protest, a maandamano. Raila Odinga has called a public gathering. But we must make this clarification. We should not be made to believe that public gathering is maandamano. That is technically blown out of proportion. So think about it. Let's wait and see. There is a matter of a lot of things we are putting at let's wait and see. Maandamano, Cherera, Hustler Fund. It's a matter of let's wait and see. That's my take.